Hey guys, I'm Claire Kay, here with the Nocturnal at ArcLight Cinema in Hollywood for the world premiere of Living With Yourself, starring Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd. Keep watching for some behind the scenes, on the carpet, and to see some interviews with the cast and crew. What was your favorite part on set, and what was your favorite scene to film?
Yeah, I was really lucky that my scenes were with Paul, and so I got to see him, not only acting as one character, but as two, and going back and forth and sort of, really changing, his performance completely from one fully realized character to the other. So I learned so much, was just really trying to soak it in and, learn from one of the sort of best, right?
Why do you think people should watch this show? What's different about it? What sets it apart?
It's a premise that certainly hasn't been explored before, and I think we're moving into an era where this kind of science fiction is actually maybe a little bit more real than we think, and maybe coming a little bit sooner than we might know, And so I think it's important that we kind of explore these ideas and have a think about what the impact could be, on society. Just because we can doesn't mean that we should, and that kind of question is explored.
What was your favorite scene to film, and who was it with?
I did most of my work with Aisling, and I think my favorite was I feel like a broken record, but we play architects, and we were finally able to have enough room where we kind of needed to button the scene, and so we just needed to improvise our way out of it, which normally we could do like pros, but then we realized that we weren't experienced architects in real life and maybe hadn't done enough research about their materials, so we were really grasping at straws to sound official and legit. I don't know.
Is there any aspect of the character that you really related to, or how was the character different from anything you've ever played before?
I like that she's just very much herself and doesn't care what people think, so I think that's very much me. I love that she's a gay character. I love that she's a teammate with her friend, and I'm trying to think of anything that's like, I don't know, she's different than people I've gotten to play, but there was just a nice ease to her that I like, She doesn't have to impress anybody. She has pink hair sometimes. It's fun. Yeah.
So what made you get involved with the project? What really stood out to you when...
First of all, when the email comes through to audition, and you see like Paul Rudd is attached, and Val and John, who are some of the most wonderful directors and directed one of my favourite movies, which is Little Miss Sunshine, and Battle of the Sexes is another amazing movie. You're like, oh, what, me audition for that, please? So that was the first hook. The second thing was all of the scripts are already written, and I read through them like a book. And then, without giving a big spoiler away, by episode 5 we get to see everything from my character's point of view. So it wasn't just playing little missy wife or girlfriend, which is boring.
Who was better to work with, Paul Rudd or Paul Rudd?
Oh, do you know what? I actually really like working with Paul Rudd. And I think out of Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd, I would. Yeah, no, I would choose Paul Rudd. Yeah.
What can viewers look forward to in the show that maybe they haven't seen in a comedy before?
I think it allows, especially having someone like Paul, and I've been an actor for a long time, but I'm also a stand-up, it sort of makes the topics within it more accessible. Some of the topics in it might be sort of maudlin in their tone if you were to take them and go, it's going to be about, toxic masculinity and relationship breakdowns and having a baby and losing a baby and trying to get pregnant and suicide and mental health. You'd be like, no thanks, let's stick on 90 Day Fiancé instead. But I think because it's dealt with comedy, you sort of don't realise maybe there's been a lot of themes and stuff to think upon that you've been watching throughout the show than you might if you watch something that was like really heavy hitting with it. So I love that. I love that about comedy, that it does, and especially now with streaming platforms, you're creating something for people to kind of watch with 1 or 2 or 3 people, probably maximum, in your sitting room. So you don't have to kind of worry about going, is there a big gag here? Will people laugh in the cinema? It sort of allows storytelling to do something different and sort of expand a bit more like an accordion and have different views of comedy. And there's room for so many different types now, which is nice,
How is it like working for a streaming service like Netflix as opposed to a regular media company?
I love it because, to be honest, there's such a large platform to know that a show is going to be available very quickly to loads of people to watch. Also, they really didn't have a heavy hand in this, which is really nice. They didn't come in with huge notes and stuff like that. They let us be creative, and the whole process felt creative. John and Val got to make make it like a long movie. It looks really beautiful. Tim and John and Val, Tim, who's the writer, Tim Greenberg here beside me, were in charge, and it wasn't like sometimes with a lot of network stuff, there's 17 different notes coming from advertisers and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, who's it going to offend, who's it going to appeal to? And actually with this, what's so lovely about it is that they didn't have a heavy hand, but they're selling it, and that's a really nice feeling to have, like they're backing the show.
Why should viewers watch this show? What sets it apart?
How do you?
I mean, I do think it's both fun and about something at the same time, you know? I think Paul Rudd is himself a bit like that, certainly in this show, where he's very entertaining to watch and always likable, but it also gets, I think, a lot deeper than that. And I think the things that his both characters go through get a lot deeper. So I think it's a way that you can sort of not feel like you're just eating candy, you know, but also not feel like you're eating your spinach, you know? It's kind of a bit of both, which doesn't actually sound that good, but I think it would be good.
What was filming like? I know Paul didn't use a stunt or an actor double. So what was that like on set, the rehearsal process and the filming process?
Well, I mean, he did it a very specific way, which we kind of came to, and he kind of figured out where he would. I mean, it starts with him envisioning the scene and how he's going to perform it. You know, that's kind of step one, and then he would record one side of the dialogue just in audio. Then they would make, it's called an earwig. It's like a little speaker, tiny hidden speaker in your ear. And as he was performing now the first side of the scene that's actually being filmed, we would play back the other side in his ear so that he could get the timing down and all of that. And then he would switch. We would pick our take or a few takes from now the film version, and then he would go to the other side and act back to that side, and we would again play that in his ear. So he could really be acting to himself and not sort of get distracted with stand-ins or other sort of interpretations of how it was. So he really had control of how the scene was going. And it worked great. I mean, he got, amazing at it.
Do you have any favorite moments on set or a favorite scene that you guys filmed that really stick out?
Oh, yeah.
My least favorite was when we were burying Paul Rudd alive in the woods in the middle of the night, and it was freezing, and we just started shooting. We'd only been shooting together a few days, and it's right in the opening shot. Like, we buried him in the forest. There wasn't any I'd never done anything like that before. I thought, like, oh, this is going to be some kind of fancy special effect. There was no special effect. We dug a hole, we put him in the hole, we covered him with saran wrap, we buried him with a lot of dirt. It's actually, even though it's fairly shallow, it's a lot of dirt. All he had was a little, like a tube like you would have for like an aquarium to breathe through. And then we pull that tube when we start rolling, so now he can't even breathe. And then we have this big crane shot that pulls up, and it takes a while before he's actually able to dig out of the ground. So it was horrible. I mean, we basically buried Paul Rudd alive. And I was like, it was so deeply uncomfortable. I would not ever want to do that again. So that was my least favorite moment.
Man, last question before I let you go. Do you think we'll see a season 2 of Living with Yourself?
I don't know, viewers. You tell me. Tune in. Maybe we will. I don't know. I have not really thought about it all that much, honestly. But if people like it, and sort of the stars align again and everybody wants to do more, maybe we will. And if not, there's certainly a lot of other great stories to tell out there. So.
Hi, I'm Malyn, and you're watching The Nocturnal.
Hi, I'm Gonzaga, and you're watching The Nocturnal. And if it's the daytime, I don't know what you're watching.
Hello, I'm Aisling B, and you, madam and sirs, are watching The Nocturnal.
Hi, this is Tim Greenberg, and you're watching The Nocturnal.